We are back, and it is finals time. We've got 2 players left out of all of the Asia Pacific Grandmasters, and they are called Surrender and Alutimu. I'm pumped for this finals, Derek.
I absolutely am. Commiserations to Division B throughout all of Grandmasters. This is the #1 and #2 seed of Division A fighting it out for their spot at BlizzCon at the Global Finals. And I would argue 2 of the strongest performing players so far in Grandmasters. They both pretty much known what their strengths are in terms of decks, I would say. Alutimu, very much the mage specialist. Even if he is strong at other decks, which I'm sure he is, for me the standout is really just his mage play. I think he's extremely creative with it, which you have to be with the mage. And Surrender, on the other hand, I think his strong fundamental knowledge of Hearthstone is really allowing him to adapt to all the various situations that Rogue can throw at you with all the random generation it has.
It's the difference, right? Because there's being good at a deck and being good at executing things, and then there's just being good at the game of Hearthstone.
Yeah.
And I think Surrender is just a very, very, very good Hearthstone player who I think his consistency is actually his best trait overall. Yeah. He's just always good. At his worst days, he still plays well, which means at his best days, it's absurd. He is going to be on the Rogue here. As we've seen throughout the weekend, him bringing the Burgle Rogue versus Alutimu's Cyclone Mage, and I don't know, this is just going to be a good match, and this is why, even with some of the criticism that Specialist has received, we talked about a little bit earlier, but overall, we have ended up and had throughout this season a meta game of, yes, a select amount of classes being the main highlights and superstars, but at the moment, Mage, Warrior, Rogue being the kind of 3 big decks. The fact that they're all kind of even versus each other means that it's just, I don't know, every match is interesting and pretty hype because there's a lot of different things that can happen. I don't think overall anyone has just solved, like, this is how you play this matchup, this is how you play this matchup, and so on. I think a lot of them revolve around just adapting on the fly to the game as it happens.
I agree, and I would argue even one step further than that. I think that it's kind of distilled down even further from the best 3 decks to a best 2 decks. I think Rogue and Mage are pretty clearly, at least in the playoffs of Grandmasters, vying for the #1 most powerful deck. And if this is the matchup that defines this meta of Mage versus Rogue, sign me up. Exactly. I think it is such a brilliant matchup. It's difficult to play on both sides. It's, you know, it's not... Even though there's a lot of RNG in it, I think it's mostly the good kind of RNG, where it's adapting to discover, adapting to generated cards, adapting to minions that come off Conjurer's Calling, rather than do you draw Keleseth, as we had in some of the previous metas.
Yes, there is, believe it or not, different levels of RNG. It's not just the same. Just across the board, there are varying degrees, which is why I think even today, and even though it's been out for a long time, Discover just feels like the best mechanic that's been added to Hearthstone in its life cycle.
I love it.
I think it's just solid. We've seen decision making of Discover be great and be terrible in pro play, you know, throughout the years.
You can, that's what I love about it, is that it's so rarely is great and terrible. You can always justify pretty much every choice off of a Discover option. Like, especially with Hench Clan Burglar in particular, we're like, oh, Rebuke could lower the cost of all the spells. Oh, but Pyroblast can go face, and it's like, oh, but you go for the Rock Biter. It's just that every time you can justify all the different options, and I think it's, as I've said, a great mechanic, and it makes Rogue very, very interesting at the moment.
Yeah, and just to give you a rough heads up of how this matchup will play out, it is the finals. The winner gets a spot into the global finals at BlizzCon, but most importantly, it is best of 5 for the first time in Hearthstone Grandmasters. And what this will probably mean is that we have primary deck versus primary deck game 1, then we have the counter decks for the rest of X games that are required. First player to 3 wins takes the series and takes the global final spot. Here it is, Surrender from T1 on the top as the Rogue, and Alutimu, formerly known as the player called Machamp, on the bottom from Japan on the Cyclone Mage.
And both players have got themselves off to a pretty good start, I would say.
Seems good.
Yeah. Obviously, I think both players would like to start on the coin, but I mean...
they can't.
Yes, unfortunately. There's only so much money to go around. But Miscreant and Backstab, when you are on the play, is a fantastic consolation prize.
It really is, and I think it's if this is what you would deem fair as opening hands, great.
Yeah.
It's going to be a bit of a mulligan from Alutimi, though, just keeping the Cyclone and the Arcane Intellect. Does have that coin, which is important, of course. And Surrender, I didn't quite catch it, but it looked like a mostly keep as well.
It was a full keep, yeah. And again, this is the kind of, well, okay, I was going to, before Alutemu drew the absolute stone cold nuts, I was going to say this is the kind of starting hand I like to see against Rogue, because the realization, I think, very early on from the good players with Mage is that you don't go all in on Giant and Conjurer's Calling early on. Enjoy it, Mike Kyle. Is that you can go for these kind of starting hands with more minion focus.
Nothing wrong with getting a fresh drink for the start of this best of 5 finals, Darren.
Cheers.
There we go.
Clunk.
That clip can never be shown because I... Branding
You
exists.
had a branded beverage.
So do you. But anyway.
I don't know what it says.
Because it's not in
With
English.
charcoal water.
Let's go though. Coin into Banana Buffoon, mainly because Alutemu has a second one. And look at this. Banana Buffoon into Sorcerer's Apprentice. Banana. Cyclone with the Evocation. Or he can do it even quicker.
It's very good. However, this Banana Buffoon is the key that unlocks Surrender's hand as it currently stands. The backstab into Evil Miscreant, the dream there for Surrender.
And it only starts stacking up from here, doesn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't that bad if he had to just go like say Alutemu went ping pass or coin AI or something. Surrender still could have just gone SI7 agent on curve, which is pretty good against Mage, I would argue, especially when you're on the play. But this is definitely preferable. Oh man, Alutemu can just take it so slow if he wants to here. He doesn't have to do anything because he's just going to explode onto the board. He even has the AI to go after the Luna's Pocket Galaxy, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, and the fact that there's not even a remote need for him to cast it beforehand, because sometimes you have Pocket Galaxy and AI early on, but the rest of your hand is like, oh, I really want to play this Intellect to get something to bridge the gap.
You can't just pass on 3.
Yeah, exactly. But here, there's just not even a remote need for Alutemu to get this this AI underway. As Darren tries to destroy the set.
Cable's too short, okay, I'm just saying.
Oh, you're too tall.
We'll meet in the middle.
That's where I go.
But the interesting thing is here that, well, both players are actually just doing insanely powerful things at this point in the game. Alutemu has got, as I said, pretty much the dream. He'll be able to explode onto the board, get 4, 5, 6 generated cards on the following turn. Surrender is turning up the heat, though. Just SI7 agent straight up on this turn to take out the Banana Buffoon and get the damage on board is crazy strong.
It is, and it's going to turn into one of those weird games where is the sheer power of Alutemu being able to generate that many spells better than Rogue cards?
I'm not sure.
I don't know. You know, I don't actually know the answer to that question at all. It might be.
I think the fact that he'll have 2 mana left over after he plays all the Bananas Evocation Cyclone, and to have an Apprentice on board means that it's very possible Alutemu just clears this up on this turn. Or at least deals with some of the minions.
It's so insane.
It is pretty insane.
Are you too young to know Banana Man? The superhero?
I do actually know Banana Man. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And was he with Super Ted? Was he to do with Super Ted? Were they similar shows?
I think one's a teddy bear, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh wait, was Super Teddy's bear? I don't even know.
Maybe. It rings
anyway,
a bell.
It was a kid who had a banana and turned into a superhero.
Right.
This Sorcerer's Apprentice definitely feels like a superhero now, because that is 4 bananas. It's a 7/6 Sorcerer's Apprentice, and Alutemu is about to just add his Psychic Cyclone for an extra 1,000,000 spells. Oh.
Just play stuff. Just play stuff. It doesn't matter what. You just throw stuff onto the board. I love this. This gives him the highest chance of protecting the Sorcerer's Apprentice. This turn has gone from good to ridiculous very, very quickly.
And the following turns look pretty cool too. There's still the Pocket Galaxy.
Mage is pretty cool.
There's still Blizzard into Flame Strike. This is a freeze mage hand. Blizzard Flame Strike Antonidas with a Frostbolt.
Okay, yeah, so in the question of what's better, discover a rogue card or cheat out. What was
18
that?
million mana.
Like, I think that was actually like 8 or 9 mana that was cheated out on that turn. Yeah, I think I'd probably give the slight advantage to Ali Temu there.
I think it was, I want to say 9.
4 bananas, AI, mirror image, the shooting star,
The Ray of Frost.
Ray of Frost,
the
the second
Cyclone.
Ray of Frost.
The Cyclone.
Is 2 more mana. That's 11 mana.
I didn't count the intellect.
That was
but yeah.
cheated on that turn. On turn 4. What is this deck?
And his hand's still full.
Innovate cheated out 2 mana and had to be nerfed. Oh my lord.
Oh, never change Hearthstone. Unless you're going to buff even more stuff to make it more silly.
Okay, however, with Surrender's generation here of the Kobold Lackey, at great personal expense, he is able to kill off the Apprentice. Which is a big deal.
I was going to call
That
this
is a big deal.
I was going to call this game like the Generation Wars, and I realized it might be misunderstood for some political, historical issue or something. But it is the card Generation Wars, and it's going a little bit nutty because this shows the power level of the 2 decks, right? An average Hearthstone deck should not have been able to survive that turn from Ali Temu, and it has. Surrender upset at the Pocket Galaxy because although it might look like a big 5 mana do nothing turn, it's done a lot that's still to come.
I would argue he was actually pretty happy about that, just because it's not a big development onto the board. Like Luna's Pocket Galaxy, when your opponent plays Galaxy and you have nothing on board, it's dreadful, right? Like that's usually the final nail in the coffin. Yeah. Exactly. This instance, though, the fact that it wasn't, I don't know, giant and like evocation giant Conjurer's Calling, I don't even know if that was a possibility, but just something, right? Like it wasn't a big development onto the board. Means Surrender can just go for the aggression plan here.
Yeah, this may not be what Surrender was thinking, but my fear would be if they've got that many cards and played Pocket Galaxy, do they just have like Luna or Intellect, and then I'm scared?
Yeah, because there's a lot of card draw.
Because with that many cards in hand, Ali Temu's chosen to play 5 mana do nothing this turn. That would scare me more than him playing minions, actually. But maybe that's just the way I think about it.
There's some consideration for a new challenger here, just to get yourself a big
minion
in play. Yeah, it's actually not that bad.
Powered Shield.
Powered Shield is nuts, but like Surrender needs stuff to spend his mana on, and a new challenger is guaranteed mana expenditure.
About 7.
Exactly 7.
Well, not if you gain the Sorcerer's Apprentice. Sorry, I slipped into Twitch chat mode then for a second.
You slipped into your true self, Raven.
Not at all.
I know who you are.
But now, though, who cares about the board? Which is why I like the Pocket Galaxy.
Yeah.
If you Pocket Galaxy, take the hit this turn, Blizzard. If that doesn't work, Flame Strike. If that doesn't work, okay, yeah, maybe you're dead.
Fair enough, you got me there, mate.
Yeah, it's like I tried. Good job.
The power of 1,000 suns could not defeat you. Well played.
Is that Flame Strike's text or something? Clear the board with the power of 1,000 suns.
That's what it feels like.
Although, remember back in the day, Flame Strike, one of the ultimate AoEs, right?
Yes.
Now, 7 mana, deal 4 damage to the board. Just doesn't feel that cool, does it? It's like
the Giants just kind of laugh and brush it off and just punch you in the face.
It's like, did you see what Ali Temu did with 4 mana? Like, I didn't even see it. You gasped, but
those are some pretty good options. Reckless Rocketeer
with Divine Shield.
Is that better than Curse Castaway? It kind of has to be, right? That's nuts.
Look, Garrett, I'll allow you back into the Hunter Lodge for a second. Rush versus Charge.
Draw a card?
Charge.
Fair enough.
5 damage now. And it's got Divine Shield. That's actually...
I agree.
It's a sick playing around Flame Strike. Look at this damage, though, in all seriousness. For once. 4 damage from the pick, 2 from the Lackey, 3 from the Life Drinker, 2 from the SI. Not that you can do it all in the same turn, but that's just a lot of damage.
It is. And Ali Temu is in a position where he could lose this game. It seems ridiculous. He has picked up an AI, so, you know, Khadgar, Mirror Image, AI, very possibly picks him up something big to throw down alongside that. I guess he could start with the AI if he wants to play that on this turn, but maybe he wants to throw in a Frostbolt ping instead, because it could be Khadgar mirror image, ping the 4-1, and then yeah, Frostbolt the...
I guess. I was wondering whether he was going to just go for the big draw of Sea Giant.
I think this is probably better. Like, if even just one of these minions, these taunts survives, Alutemu is happy.
Okay, well, like I said, Surrender's got a lot of damage. The sap doesn't connect anything. No, it doesn't connect anything this turn, so I think he holds the sap.
Decision point now for Surrender, where he could clear off all of these mirror images with Kobold Lackey, SI7 Agent, even throwing a Life Drinker as well, whatever. That would mean leaving up the Khadgar, so I guess he has to Kobold or SI the Khadgar and leave up a mirror image. It's not much of a choice, I think, but it doesn't feel great.
So he can play everything but the weapon, right? Because he already has a weapon equipped and a 1-attack minion, that swing and attack clears a 0-2, which means that he may as well Life Drinker SI Kobold. I mean, the only problem is if he does that, he doesn't set up a bounce next turn.
That's what I mean. There is still some benefit to getting the Waggle pick down this turn, even if you just equip it as a 4-2. Or even if you just use it in the same effect as a dagger, just to deal 1 damage in combination with the Miscreant. It sets up for Life Drinker bounce next turn.
There's probably, yeah. It means you've got a guaranteed good bounce minion here with Surrender's Hand, right? And also, it's likely that this Miscreant lives to do the other 1 damage to this mirror image.
Oh my lord.
Okay.
Sit back and watch.
This is game number 1, and it already feels like the final showdown in some kind of anime, doesn't it? Of just like it's so swingy in terms of like who's getting ahead. Like Alutemu started off amazingly well, then Surrender's fought back, and now it just keeps going back and forth. Oh.
This is like, again, I have not seen Dragon Ball Z, but this feels like Super Saiyan plus 57 at this point.
I'm sure it exists.
I'm sorry for all the fans in chat that I just upset so viscerally.
Sorry for
my
the
nonsense.
I think the Dragon Ballers.
Oh, sorry.
Is what they're known as. It's definitely untrue. I'm making that up. but it's a great name.
My job is to talk about Hearthstone, and somehow that made me feel like that's less cool.
The tools of creation.
You don't want to be a Dragon Baller?
Nope. Okay. I'd love to be Alutemu though, as oh my good giddy aunt, is he keeping up with one hell of a turn?
He needs to kill off his own taunts now.
Oh my god!
Behold! Behold!
Behold Brokeback. Behold Brokeback.
Oh, even though
I don't even think he could do everything he wanted to on that turn.
I think he's done enough.
I think that's more than enough. Yes. Okay, swing is not...
Yes! Alutemu now just wielding the power of the universe as he's leveled up just a little bit. Surrender has no response other than like... Yeah, you got me. Oh.
Yes. So, there's a sap. Well, there's never... never lethal. Even, like he could dagger to bounce to get like a pseudo bounce effect off the.
So what about? So Kobold can kill the 3/2. He can play double Life Drinker this turn.
Well, he needs to think about setting up lethal next turn because he can survive purely by sapping one of the giants, I believe, and at least on board. And so then from that position, he could try and set up for Life Drinker, swing, Life Drinker next turn.
But then you may as well play 1 Life Drinker now,
Fair
right?
enough. Yeah.
So 1 Life Drinker, sap, and then what? Kobold the probable face.
He was going for the bounce on one of the 2 damaging minions there. He missed both of them.
This could create damage, though.
Exactly, it could create damage. It could create more damage if he's very fortunate. Still in such a close position. I mean, Alutemu is a Ziliax away from just winning on the spot. Those are the 2 worst lackeys. Yeah. Well, basically, they're not Kobold or Ethereal, which were the only 2 that mattered.
I'd love it if out of all the targets, Surrender just sapped the Luna. It's just... Not again.
Alutemu still has Ziliax in deck, I believe, right? He hasn't played it yet.
Not that I can recall
I
off the
don't
top
think
of my
so,
head.
yeah. So I think he can probably guaranteed draw through to it. The problem is that Mirror Image restricts board space, so if he wants to play it, he should play it first to only get one Mirror Image.
Should he?
Yes, I like this, because then he can still trade off the Apprentice.
Can he not just strike?
Behold
It's
the
very unlikely
tools
he's
of
dead, right?
Well, I think if he
creation.
draws Ziliax, he wins 100%.
Behold the tools of
Well,
creation.
there's
There
Ziliax.
it is.
Let's see if he converts it to that 100% win rate.
Trade off the Apprentice. Yep, yep, yep. I mean, no, I was... Oh, no, sorry. We could still see Kundra's calling on the Sea Giant to hope for a 10 drop, trade in the Luna, self-ping the Luna, magnetize the Ziliax on. That's what he's going for. I think this is very, very smart. If he hits a mech here, the game ends on the spot. If he hits double Hakar, though, can things go wrong?
I don't think Trender can kill 2 Hakars.
I don't
so
think
no.
he can.
Behold the tools of creation.
I don't think there's anything Surrender can do. I think he gave himself such a fighting chance.
It all looked well until Alutimu drew and played about 8,000 mana's worth of cards in one turn.
Oh, man. Like,
Oh,
when
the backstab is actually sick as well. If only the turn just wasn't quite as good for Alutimu,
Yeah.
Surrender probably could have just wiggled through that game and just about got the damage, but Alutimu, and we saw it earlier, he played, yes, believe it or not, Pocket Galaxy, quite powerful in the deck right now,
Yep.
but he played it into almost a
scary
full board
Yeah,
against
yeah. That was
Rogue and
risky.
said, I am committing this mana. It didn't even massively pay off until what, 2 turns before, 3 turns before
could
the
have
end
been
of the
a
game?
complete whiff.
Yeah, it could have just not done much. And even if he'd drawn 1 Sea Giant at a time or something like that and not drawn the Luna, he wouldn't have drawn his deck as fast, which means he would have just presented 1 threat to Surrender at a time, which Rogue is very apt at dealing with, that kind of just slow and steady threats, which means he did invest the 5 mana into that turn, and there was a chance it didn't pay off. It wasn't just, oh, I've cast Lunas, I win. I think it's still lower power level of, like, well, you've talked about before about, you know, Skull of Manari, right? If you play Skull of Manari and it doesn't get removed, and you have a demon in hand, well, it always does the thing,
Yeah.
right? It always pulls a demon onto the board. Whereas this doesn't always pay off like that. Yes, that was magnificent, and Alutimu is probably pretty happy with that game. But still, it's not just a done thing, is
Yes,
my point.
far from an auto-win card. As Matt, that was one of the most powerful games of Hearthstone I've seen in a long while. Both players did pretty much close to the absolute dream of what they want to do. But little did Surrender know that when Alutemu cheated out 11 mana's worth of stuff
Turn 4?
on turn 4, that wasn't even his final form. He still had to play Luna and Luna's Pocket
I
Galaxy.
think the only bad thing about that game is it's just going to make all the others probably feel worse, because I feel like that game should have been the last game in the series, whichever way the series goes. But now the players do have an option. This is still Specialist, even though it's best of 5, have an option to change deck. And it looks like Surrender is switching to his tertiary deck, which means that he is playing the Betrayal, Double Fairy Dragon, Walk the Plank, as we can see now. And again, I will repeat myself. I feel that the Fairy Dragon is the most high impact card out of these 5.
Yeah, I think they complement each other beautifully. I think like the Walk the Plank and Betrayal would get significantly worse without the inclusion of Fairy Dragon, because the removal cards are only good when they allow you to push damage phase, push tempo in the matchup, as has always been the case with Rogue. You know, Sap is good because you're able to get down a huge Edwin, or traditionally a Questing Adventurer, a Gadget Sand Auction, or whatever, to swing damage in, swing tempo in your favor and get the damage through to face, which is why I agree that while Betrayal and Walk the Plank are a little bit situational, deserving of a spot when you have the extra damage from Fairy Dragon.
It is -5 minions and only +2 back, so that is something to consider. So let's check out Alutimu's deck as he has moved over to his secondary, which is, you know, one of my favorite sideboards of the whole Grandmasters. Is just 2 halftime scavengers, -1 buffoon, which I told you earlier is one of the first cuts I would go to in the mage deck, even though I know you don't like it. But then the Archmage Antonidas as well, which is again versus Rogue, not that the most consistent card in the world.
It's just simple, it's clean, I think is why I like it. And you know, the Banana Buffoon, although it was absurdly powerful in that game, it was very nearly disastrous for Alutimu, because it was powerful due to the fact he already had an insanely powerful hand with
Right.
Sorcerer's Apprentice, Evocation, and Cyclone. The downside of it was very apparent that it enabled backstab miscreant for surrender, and that can very often lead to your downfall, which is why I like the cutting of Banana Buffoon in this deck, because again, you know, you never want to cut any cards in this major deck. There's a reason it's the most powerful deck in Hearthstone. But you've got to cut something to get in the extra anti-aggro cards, and I think this is exactly the way to go.
It is, and let's get straight into it. Alutimu currently 1-0 up, and the double halftime scavenger in his opening hand. I don't know if he will keep them both, but yeah, the keeping one seems pretty reasonable to me. And Surrender's opening hand not looking too shabby either.
I think it's a bit of a misplay. I would have liked to see the two halftime scavengers combined to make a time scavenger, but it's a reasonable second.
Not full time?
Nope, just time scavenger. Your joke would have made far too much sense.
It would have made so much sense, it wouldn't have even really been a joke. Would have gone past.
Exactly.
Surrender. Tough mulligan, I think. For me, at least. He did just keep the SI. I would have been very tempted to keep some other stuff. And maybe they kept the Waggle Pick as well. Maybe I just like the card too much. But I think for me, at least, that was a bit of a tough mulligan. I'm not saying he was wrong in what he did, but the choices was a lot difficult.
I think when you're on the coin, you are allowed a somewhat heavier mulligan to look for the cards that you really want to see. Edwin #1, Miscreant probably still #2. But the thing is, these high attack minions for the mana cost, like Blinkfox, SO7 Agent, and Hench Clan Burglar, are super nice against Mage. Like we saw how nearly Surrender got the lethal damage in that previous game.
Our team is starting with just a mirror image. Just wants to use the mana right now, has nothing in his hand that's going to combo with it at all.
Yeah.
So mirror image probably into ping, probably into arcane intellect is the overall plan here for Alutimu.
Yeah, mirror image on one is actually something I've very recently started experimenting with myself, because it's a play you never really want to do traditionally because it's a weak turn. It offers no board control whatsoever. It's purely healing, basically, is what it's affording you here, or at least protecting some of your minions when they come down. But I think it makes a lot of sense for Alutimu because, it's either whether he does it turn 1 or turn 2 makes little difference. It's just he would miss a ping if he went for it on turn 2 instead. So I like it turn 1 instead of turn 2. And turn 3 and 4, he very clearly has full mana expenditure. AI, halftime scavenger. So get these down to protect him from those SIs, Blink Foxes, Edwin, Hench Clan Burglars. There's a lot of stuff that really is helpful to tank the damage from.
Yeah, just spend the mana while you can. It's never a truly terrible overall game plan in Hearthstone.
It has downsides, of course. He's down a card against to make Mountain Giant more expensive. He would like to save it to go with Khadgar or Sorcerer's Apprentice or Mana Cyclone. But as it currently stands, I think his hand is looking a little bit more heavily towards alternate routes rather than going for a big mirror image plan.
Yeah, and here's one of those questions. It's the exact question I asked you a little bit earlier. There's Lunas and there's Arcane Intellect,
so
but if you don't play if you don't play Arcane Intellect, is ping good at ping into halftime into Luna into Intellect better? I don't know, because you lose a lot of tempo by doing this, and not that Arcane Intellect would have gained you tempo, but it gains you something.
Right. Well,
whereas
what does Arcane Intellect actually gain you here? Turn 4, turn 5. If he saves the Arcane Intellect, Pocket Galaxy is a valid turn 5 play. If he doesn't, it gets a lot sketchier. So I would argue, because AI on this turn doesn't likely affect his play on the next 2 turns, he could very much consider just holding on to it to then just go turn 4, turn 5, Scavenger, Galaxy, then draw afterwards.
It's weird though, isn't it? Because one thing that's tough to deal with is if you Luna, then AI, that is like 1.5 turns that you might do nothing against Rogue, and then you might be dead.
That's
so
very
I
arguable.
think like using the mana now is reasonable, but still a difficult. I still don't know what's right.
It's tough because this is saying that Luna's Pocket Galaxy into Arcane Intellect on average is not good enough. So he needs to look for alternate lines of play, which I think is a very valid assumption to come to. He's already found a Mountain Giant. So instead he's just setting up for Giant Conjurer's Calling, it looks like, rather than the Galaxy.
And also he can go Galaxy now because he has Luna. So
yes,
he has some good options. He does have that card draw later in the game anyway.
Ooh.
Is Trade Giant ever good? Which Thunderous, okay. Oh!
Spirit of
The shark? Yep.
It does nothing. It does literally nothing.
Does he have any battle cries in the deck?
Mana Cyclone, Banana Buffoon.
Oh! There you go.
That's pretty much it, I think. It's nutty with those. Overall, I would say that this was an extremely poor outcome for Ali Temu. There's always a second. Whenever there's that minion with stealth in the 0-3 stat line, I'm always like, oh, which one is it? Which one is it?
Yeah.
Like, imagine if he'd got Spirit of the Tiger instead, the Paladin one for 4 mana as well. Probably would have just been a lot of wisps being summoned instead. But I don't know. Pocket Galaxy summoning a 5/5. That's not bad.
And also, is summoning just a load of rubbish that bad against Rogue?
Right, yeah,
Like,
that's fine.
you've probably got minions to trade it off into, and it's not costing you anything extra.
As it currently stands, though, Ali Temu is just getting beat up.
Here comes Fairy Dragon.
Oh! Okay, the double Cyclone this game. Is that even good?
Well, it means that you can cast half the spells and get the same value, right?
Yes.
You know what I mean, though?
Yeah,
he can do
yeah.
Magic Trick, Evocation, Cyclone, and gets 4 spells. Like, that's just fine.
That's nuts.
5 if you include the spell from the actual Magic Trick.
So should he go Lunas on this turn as well? Because, or does he save the Evocation, right? Because what this play allows him to do is to set up for Giant Conjurer's Calling next turn. And so I think he should definitely be moving towards that as quick as humanly possible.
I think he might have to generate the spells.
Right, well, I'm saying he could go Magic Trick, whatever spell comes off of it, and then Cyclone to get him up to a full hand, and then save the Evocation for Giant Conjurer's Calling. He might not have to do that because he could just get to the point where the Giant costs low enough anyway. If he gets a second Elemental Evocation, though, he could look at double Evocation Cyclone... No, double Evocation Giant, double Conjurer's Calling next turn. I don't think that was quite available, though, because he didn't have enough spells to cast. Or was it?
Or was it?
He could have gone Conjurer's Calling the Spirit of the Shark. Oh, no, wait, because then he doesn't get the double Power Cry. Yeah, no. This was good. He wouldn't get the Ice Barrier.
Conjurer's Calling again, because he's already used
Oh, he's already used one. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he
that
created
was
Spell
wrong
of the
in
Shark, yeah.
so many ways then. Yeah. Okay, yeah, this is good. It still allows him Mountain Giant.
And he got in the Pocket Galaxy too.
Yep. That's true. AI as well is pretty nuts now with the Pocket Galaxy 2. That was such a complicated turn, but I think Ali Temu had the right idea because this play set him up for both Giant Conjurers next turn and also just a huge Luna play.
Whereas I think this play sets Surrender up for just punching
yeah,
Galotinu in the face.
I agree with that. Super close to lethal.
The onus is very much on Galotinu to try and defend now, and he can. He does have Ice Barrier. He has Mirror Image. He has Vaporize as well. He could do all of those this turn, as well as kill off the 3-2.
He's just struggling on mana, which I know seems insane after he's played Luna's Pocket Galaxy, but like Ice Barrier for 3 mana, how can that be better than what he gets off the top? If he finds Ziliax, he's obviously in a fantastic position.
Well, I'm just thinking if he Ice Barrier, Vaporize, Mirror Image, it's just to buy a turn's worth of mana. So now he's got one more turn, one more natural card draw.
I think he has to do something pretty miraculous from where he's sat, because for all he knows, there's damage from over the top of taunts that he has to start moving towards Ziliax very quickly.
Brave point now for Galotinu. That's going to go for the Ice Barrier. Great Man Surrender only runs 1 Eviscerate and then Generation cards and Life Drinkers that could sort of cheat the win past the Ice Barrier.
So now, obviously he does not know that it's Ice Barrier, but attacking him with one of the minions first to test for the Splitting Image first seems good, because if it's Splitting Image, he wins 100% with Leroy. So when he finds out it's Ice Barrier, he has like a chance to bounce the SI, but I think that still wouldn't deliver lethal through the 8 damage, the 8 heal of Ice Barrier, so I don't think there's any way that Surrender can get lethal this turn. Which means instead he has to focus on killing the Luna. because you can't leave that up. Yeah, I agree with this. I was testing for spells first, of course, because he still has the ability to kill it off, and he didn't want to play into... Oh, wait, he knew it wasn't the splitting image at that point. It's getting complicated for Surrender. I think he's going about it the right way, though.
So now he knows
Because he can
it's
still
either
have killed it
barrier
off.
or vape.
Correct.
Because Spellbender would have been procced as well.
Yes, yes.
Now, I think it's going to be fairly straightforward for Alutimu.
You can get in a free apprentice if he desires as well. But you'd have to play the Giant first, of course, if he wants to play Conjurer's Calling as well. But that would allow him to play 2 magic tricks, which is actually pretty nuts.
May as well play the tricks first, right?
Yes.
Yep.
If he can get Ray of Frosts, he's in a pretty good position, actually.
I quite like Shooting Star.
I think I like Magic Trick. I think
Okay.
he just really wants to find Ray of Frost above everything else.
Frostbolt's kind of like Ray of Frost.
Next turn, right now, it's nothing like Ray of Frost because he can't cast the Conjure Calling on the
I
same
think it's worth
turn.
taking, though.
I agree, it's the pick, yes. Oh.
Second Ice Barrier.
It's probably the pick because he's already got Snap Removal in Polymorph.
And he only needs to hold on for 2 seconds,
Praise
right?
for taunts! Oh,
Double.
the absolute dream for Alutimu there.
Okay, well, I know what I'm doing if I'm Surrender. He did it last game. He can roll Reckless Rocketeer again.
Oh, of the power of creation. Well, that came off a new challenger. Maybe you can get it again on power of creation
Yeah.
here.
Clear the taunts. Yeah, and he knows it's not counterspell, right? He knows he knows he
it's
can
only-
play
yes,
spells.
It's only Vaporize or Ice Barrier now.
Yeah.
Because did he play a minion last turn? He did, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. It's Vape or Ice Barrier as far as Surrenders are aware. Wait. Yeah. He just does this and swings, right?
And then he's
just going for lethal.
A potential for lethal.
Yeah,
right
he gets
here.
another 2 damage lucky.
Okay. Yeah, I like this.
Oh, okay.
Those are terrible.
You can evolve 3 times to try and get something that deals 4 damage to face.
I don't even know what does that.
Nothing. It was a joke. Taunt then. Oh. Very stuck. Oh. Oh! What? And he's gonna get. Is he gonna get this? Oh, he got Van Cleave. Oh.
Oh my god, Raven, this game. This is so close. But now he still has the Ice Barrier, which protects him.
But not if he draws a Shadow Step.
He can draw.
Oh! Zilliax! I mean, this turn just got simple, right? Play all your stuff, Frostbolt the face, and Zilliax and Nova.
Or would he rather Vaporize on this turn to play around Leroy going face? Like, he obviously has the Ice Barrier, but that's a lot of damage reduction.
He can... I guess if you have the Zilliax... So Surrender can still draw Eviscerate, right? Oh, he needs Eviscerate and a Shadow Step.
Yeah.
He's one off.
He can't get it on this turn. He can't. Ping and then...
Wait, he could.
Vaporize.
Togwaggle. He can Togwaggle Wand.
Togwaggle into the wand on this turn. And Surrender set that up perfectly by holding on to the Lackey.
Yep.
Alutemu knows there's a Lackey in hand no matter what.
Oh, this could be Togwaggle, deal 2 damage, Togwaggle, Wand, Evis,
All right.
Shadow Step.
Togchamp, it's time.
There's Shadow
oh my
Step!
god.
Toggers! I'm going to snap say this, but I think it's the only play.
Wait, he doesn't have lethal with Leroy up.
No, it's Barrier.
Well, no, because with the Shadow Step, he might have it in the case of everything other than Vaporize as well. But no, it's not. It's too much.
Ooh, don't go face. Bear in mind, though, as well, it's not like Surrender's dead next turn.
Good point.
There's just an 8-8 and the 3-1 on the board. The 3-1 he can kill this turn if he really wants.
Surrender has to be careful as well, though, because he's playing around another secret. This could still be Spellbender, Counterspell, very importantly, so we're probably going to see...
He can test with Shadow Step, which is fine.
Because you want to Shadow Step this anyway.
Yeah. And now Wand.
Eviscerate not lethal as it currently stands.
Oh, he can now discover another spell. Oh, Shark! Oh. It would have been lethal if he just aimed it at face. Mortal Strike!
Well, no, it wouldn't, right? It would have been one off still, but either way.
Oh, right, yeah, sorry, you're right, It needs to be this. Oh, so now Surrender just saying, okay, let the game continue. There's Mortal Strike in his hand.
He could have gone face there and set up Mortal Strike lethal though, right?
Well, if Alutimu puts him to the certain health, isn't it?
Well, it deals 4 damage, right? He dealt 4 damage to face this turn with Spirit of the Shark Drinker. And then
oh, sorry.
Just,
Sorry, no, you're right.
Spirit of the Shark Lackey.
You're right.
Wasn't that just better? Like, what can Alutemu do that A, kills Alutimu, which would have to be 11 damage from hand, or B, heals? There's no more heal in the deck. It would have to be exactly Counterspell to stop that, which he can test.
Is he worried about just dying to Sorcerers this turn? Surely not. I don't even know. I've lost my train with this game and with the series so far, to be honest.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's the Nova.
I wonder if that might just be the difference maker though for Surrender.
Now suddenly there isn't the strict liberty to say, oh well, Surrender's still got a couple of turns of damage left. He hasn't, like...
He's considering the self-ping to play around walk the plank?
I don't hate it.
Oh my god, this is getting so complicated.
Oh, but if he pings face, the Frostbolt... Oh no, he can ping face next turn. Yeah. Because Frostbolt the 2 trades and ping next turn, win him the game anyway.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
but
if he just cobbled the face
last turn would have won him the game here. He can now go Spirit of the Shark into no relevant battle cries. Like he can clear stuff. He can clear stuff off. It's not like he's dead.
So he can Vendetta, Mortal Strike,
the Giant,
Spirit of the Shark, Van Cleef, and just make a giant Van Cleef, kill off the Giant. You're facing down 2 damage.
You could even throw the Bestial Wrath on the Sheep, just for an extra +4/+4, should he so desire.
That's worth saving. He might not ping the Sheep. That's just damage, Derek.
I suppose.
Okay, well, the second he swings, he's decided to punch through barrier.
Yeah.
I do like this. Yep. Remove the threat of you dying next turn. Oh, he's gonna... Huh? Oh, okay. I thought he played the Beast of Wrath afterwards. I was like, no, Surrender, that's just wrong. There's no benefits to that. And bear in mind, there's still power of creation to create even more minions.
So Alutimu has another secret. Obviously, it's an ice barrier. Surrender, I think, will actually have a fairly good read that it's ice barrier because it only came into play after the first ice barrier.
Also,
yes, exactly. You can't have 2 of the same secret in play.
Also, with 0 mana Spirit of the Shark, the 1 mana Beast of Wrath as well, potentially, it means that Surrender has a good way of checking Entity, Spellbender, Counterspell. He can just check off those without really losing anything.
That's an excellent point, actually. If another secret is played, Bestial Wrath into Power of Creation seems a lot better. Assuming the Sheep survives, of course. Well, Alutemu could play around it.
Feels so insignificant, doesn't it? Just a little sheep in the corner. But really, it's the most dangerous foe out there.
He's the mastermind behind this whole operation.
It wants you to think. It's like the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was making people believe he didn't exist. It's just like the sheep. It's like, you think sheep are innocent beasts.
Well, Alutimu is clearly thinking he needs to ship everything face. And I think, again, Alutimu's biggest enemy is the rope so far in Grandmasters.
Another beast. You can get 2 more lackeys
that's
from the
honestly
shark,
just a
like-
good draw there, right? Because Surrender needs to play around another secret. Again, as I've said, he can have a pretty good read, I think, fairly good, that it's Ice Barrier, but he can't be certain. A Swing Face would obviously check that instantly, but he might have other plans for that dagger.
Okay, no entity. Oh. Double ethereal.
He's just running out of board space is the problem, though.
Not running out of spell space there. Backstab? Not bad.
I guess.
Get rid of that Khadgar.
Yeah, that's fairly important. I was looking at,
Oh.
like, Fan of Knives just to draw a card, but it's not even that.
Where's Headcrack
good.
now? That's my question. Headcrack would be sick.
Good point. Pickpocket, though.
Get his own secret for his
Oh my
secret dude.
god.
Messenger Raven!
That's not bad.
Arcane
AI?
Intellect.
Okay,
I'm
these
just
are
naming cards
reasonable.
now.
How is this game still so
Yeah,
close?
test it for counterspell. Now he knows it's not Spellbender as well. Got rid of the Khadgar. Gonna swing. Boom. It's Ice Barrier. So now this opens up that I think Surrender is 100% sure that it is a Vaporize that is left. I think he's checked every single secret.
Like, on this turn, Alutemu could go top deck Conjurer's Calling, double Corcoran Elite, the game ends. Like, I think it's getting slimmer and slimmer for Alutemu, but he could still take this. That makes it
9,
very slim. You can obviously
15. So there's 15 damage in the assumption that Alutemu just frostbolts the Van Cleave, which I
Yes.
think happens 100% of the time this turn.
I
You
agree.
can't just take 10. There's still 15 available, and that's just if everything goes face. Or is there 14 available? Everything goes face, he trades one off, and then plays Leroy. 13 available because one will get
Yeah.
vaped. But something getting a 1-1 getting vaporized is fine for Surrender.
Oh,
That opens
yeah.
up board space.
Excellent, that's good. I agree.
Backstab as well. Does he just trade off the Giant and say you'll never win just with the top deck? I think that's fair.
I think that's very fair.
How is Alutemu supposed to win? Just by playing 1 card a turn off the top? Surrender must
He's already
know.
played Luna. He's
Sur-
already played 2 Intellects.
Surrender
3,
must
I
know
think.
that card's evocation as well, because what are you floating?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
or it's likely. Or a Cyclone,
Yes.
number 2, I
yeah,
guess?
yeah. I think like Cyclone would have come down already on that turn. And it's not randomly generated, I think, so he won't think it's another Vapor Face.
Right. Another spell. This shark is
Another
still
2
alive.
spells,
Oh,
man.
wait.
Oh,
That looks like lethal to me.
So what, 21
Yeah,
damage needed?
He tries to trade one off. So then there's 10,
Oh,
11, 12,
11, 12, 13, 19.
18.
I think it's actually just short.
Just going to use the Cold Blood to trade. I like it.
Yes, I think if you can't win, you 100%
Yes, yeah.
kill off the Giant.
Kill
I
off the
agree.
Giant and you say, you cannot beat me with 1 card off the top every turn. Impossible. Oh, now he's got Walt the Plank and Sat. I
Did he
think.
even kill off the Shark just to play around Conjurer's Calling into like the absolute dream?
What is that though?
Well, Corcoran to win the game.
I guess. Yeah.
I think shipping the damage face is like that's such an absurdly unlikely scenario to occur that I think shipping it face is on average more likely to lead you to a victory. Speaking of leading to a victory, I think Surrender's got it.
Observe and reflect.
Even if Alutemu can survive the turn, what single card top deck can get
That's
him
it,
there when
isn't
he's
it?
played
Yeah,
Luna?
that's it. And that's why I really like Surrender. Just, yes, he didn't have lethal, so he couldn't have even gone for it or whatever, but just saying, actually, no fancy stuff. If I just kill every minion he plays for the rest of the game, I win.
Yeah. Even when all of his cost 1, it turns out that, well, when you're floating 9 mana a turn, it doesn't actually make any difference what the minion costs.
Right.
He's wondering, can I afford to hold this for Cyclone top deck, I guess, to try and get more spells? But yeah, just being dead to Leroy is too scary. And... game?
1 off.
1 off. 1 off game. Yep. 1 damage off lethal.
Sorry, you got the sentence right, just in the wrong order. Game, 1 off. Oh, 1 off game. What a couple of games of Hearthstone. we have
My
had. And
goodness.
let's bear in mind, there's going to be a couple more if Surrender wins this, because it is best of 5, i.e. first 2-3, Unseen Saboteur. Nice.
That's true, yeah. The second best of 5 specialist match of the year.
Taking our team down to 11. There's a ton of pressure, and this Van Cleef cannot stay frozen forever.
Alutemu looks like he's got his hands in a silent prayer, but I've got to be honest, I'm not seeing anything that can pull him out of this one. The Sap here as well. I mean, why not? There's no taunts left in the deck for Alutemu. It has to be combos of cards, and they just never get there.
Maybe Van Cleef can be frozen forever being the sum of this game. He's not going to pull an Ang and get released from the ice and bring balance to the rogue world.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to bring unbalance to Alutemu's face when he punches him directly in it.
That looks like lethal to
There we
me.
go.
And a bit of a shake head from Surrender, just saying, okay, whew, 1 and 1. Continue.
Even though at the end there, Alutemu was, you know, he was dead for quite a few turns. I don't think there were any outs he could have gotten to pull himself back in. Those few turns earlier where he was this close to stabilizing, that was unbelievable. Like, the top deck of the Ziliax with the Arcane Intellect so nearly just won him the game. If he'd been able to find earlier a Conjurer's Calling to swing back on the board, maybe another Frost Nova, something like that to get the damage rolling. Like, Khadgar Conjurer's Calling on the Spirit of the Shark probably just wins the game on the spot if he'd found that.
I think that was the point, isn't it? Is that I feel like in that game, Alutemu never got the wide big board at any real given time, and Surrender just put on pressure just too much and too often. It was just another nuts game, though. I could watch this matchup all day, actually.
So interesting.
Sick. And I don't think the players are going to particularly change. I would say that there's a chance that Surrender might like pull a bait and switch and go back to his regular deck, because up until Alutemu's seen certain cards, then Alutemu won't know that the plank is not there and the trail is not there. But I think the Fairy Dragons just about shore up the weakness enough to warrant not doing that, unless you only want to do it to mess with your opponent, and because it's a best of 5, it's a longer format.
I think obviously there is some advantage to be gained by messing with your opponent's mind. Like, if they have to play around the cards so heavily that it warps their play to much weaker plays, it's almost as good as just having them in your deck anyway.
Right.
Just because they can't just slam Giant on 4,
Almost
for
better
example.
because they don't take up a slot.
Right, exactly. Well, that's what I mean. That's the advantage you get, is that you can then put other better cards in there. But I still think overall, they're just good. Very often the mage has to go for those kind of plays where they just say, okay, if they have it, they win. If they don't, I'm going to take the game. And so I think, you know, it's unlikely we see the players switch decks.
Yeah, and Alutemu, there's no reason for me. You don't gain anything by playing mind games. You just lose potential early game advantages with the help of those halftime scavengers. So far, 1 and 1, Darek. Can you even...
I cannot.
Guess who you think is going to win here, because it feels so even and it's on such an epic scale right now that I'm kind of glad it's best of 5, because I just want this to continue if these games continue like they are now.
I think I'm giving the edge to Surrender as it currently stands. I think that despite the fact that it still seems so close as to who is in the lead in this matchup, like just the small things I think are pulling it in favor of Surrender. Because like, even if you just look at how it's a best of 5 versus a best of 3, the way that affects that is that more games will be played, a higher percentage of the games within the series will be played with secondary and tertiary decks.
Right.
And I think when both players switch to their anti-opponent sideboard, the rogue, it swings in the rogue's favor ever so slightly, or more so than it was before. And so I think, again, because Surrender has more games to be played on those sideboard decks, usually he's at an advantage. Usually, though, your opponent doesn't have Arcane Intellect, Elemental Evocation, and Mountain Giant in the hand before they even mulligan.
That is true. As we move on to game number 3, and just a reminder, this is not the last game of the series. We are playing a best of 5, just for the first time in Grandmasters at least, which means that Surrender or Alutemu will need to go 3 and X basically to win the series and take the spot at the global finals being held at BlizzCon in November this year. So everything's even, and there's at least a few more games to play out.
So exciting, dude. This is like,
pumped.
imagine like months on down the line when BlizzCon finally rolls around. I'm going to be thinking back to this very moment when Alutimu or Surrender qualified through.
Yeah, and like I said, honestly, there's always... Look, we're casters, but we also play and watch the game. So there's always inherent, like, people have just, like, even small biases, right? Of just, oh, I'd really like to see this play as either a friend or, you know, someone you respect a lot, so on and so on. But here, I love Surrender, but if whoever wins, fantastic. Yeah. It's going to be a great representative for the Asia-Pacific Grandmasters region. And I think I have a very solid chance at even taking it before I've even seen who's qualified from EU and the Americas region this weekend.
The other regions are also unbelievable. If you haven't seen, the European semi-finalists is the top 3 point earners from Europe last year in Hunter Ace Fino and Psycho, plus Orange, one of the best performing players in Europe ever.
Of all time, yeah.
Right,
yeah.
I could not... I mean, Europe is so stacked, like with famous players in the Western scene, that I would struggle to think of a lineup I wouldn't be impressed with. But I mean, this is just something else. Like, so far, you know, whatever qualms some of the players have had with the way Grandmasters have been structured, it's pretty undeniable that the better players are, on average, rising up to the top.
Yeah, I would agree with that in general. Surrender? Gonna get pinged in the face for his effort. And it already has the dagger equipped, pretty slow, and now...
Wow, how does a strictly worse Silverback Patriarch sound?
And this is one of those weird moments where the sideboard can sometimes warp your understanding and appreciation of the deck, right? Because look, 2 Walk the Planks that have done nothing, those 2 Walk the Planks would be 2 playable minions right now. Right. Outside of exactly... wait, let me just double check. Yeah, outside of exactly Ziliax...
It's all cheap minions
and the Life Drinker, they would be playable. So it means that Surrender wouldn't have had to play this Miscreant. But...
The thing is... Yes, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, but... We can see 2 Giants in the hand from Alutimu.
Exactly.
And if Alutimu plays a Giant and Surrender just Thanos snaps it away with a Walk the Plank, then you snap all the way back to going, ah, okay. And this is why it's so hard to build a side deck.
Yes, this is, I mean, considering how strong Alutimu's hand was looking, Surrender has pretty much the perfect counter to it, which is why Alutimu was playing around to the best of his abilities. Because I think it's pretty clear if he had a Conjurer's Calling in hand, we'd see the insta-play. Exactly, Evocation, Giant, Coin, Conjurers. The thing is, Halftime Scavenger also becomes a lot worse without Conjurer's Calling as well, because you want to play it, value trade, Conjurer's Calling what's left over. But it is unbelievably less weak to exactly Walk the Plank.
I think right now, on top of it just being a solid play, I think with this deck, when you don't have Conjurer's Calling, you have to kind of expect you're going to draw it soon.
Yes.
You know, I think that's just what you've got to do. You can't just say, well, I don't have Conjurer's Calling, so I can't play as if I've got Conjurer's Calling for the next 5 turns. It just doesn't work like that.
And I think the other reason why I like this play from Alutimu is that I imagine he will have a very strong read on Walk the Plank as it currently stands from Surrender, because 1 card was kept on the mulligan, and the play was unactivated Miscreant on turn 3 into Life Drinker.
Yep.
The cards you keep against Mage are Fairy Dragon, Blink Fox, SI7 Agent, Hench Clan Burglar, and Walk the Plank. Right, it's proactive minions or giant kills.
There was still a Cable Rat in the deck that you would have, you know, tried to keep and play, of course, and so on, so on. But
if he had it, he would have played it, and therefore I think Alutimu, 1 card was kept, and it wasn't any of the better on-curve options than a 1/4, then a 3/3 on curve. So I think the pretty much only option it could be is Walk the Plank, or maybe an Edwin that like didn't get the activator, but I think that's a less strong read.
Also, as well, Edwin off coin as a keep.
Well, I think you'd consider it, but yes, I think Walk the Plank is more likely.
Now we see Alutimu again, just working out exactly what he needs to do with this turn. The rope is burning, getting to halfway. And I was going to suggest maybe sometimes you do just throw a Giant down, let your opponent spend 4 mana on it if you think there's a Walk the Plank there, and then kind of have a flat you pass, I pass turn, and then try and do something else afterwards. After 1 Walk the Plank's played, it's less likely the second one is already there, but still I think Alutimu just had a bit of rope pressure, combined with maybe 1 too many options right now.
And I think this is fine for Alutimu, even if the Walk the Plank comes down. Like, it's 3 mana versus 4 mana, right? Like, it looks terrible because it's an 8/8 being gotten rid of here, but I don't know, it was only a 3-drop for him. It cost him 3 mana, so I think in the overall tempo loss, it's really not that bad.
I wonder if Surrender ever considers like Goblin Lackey trade Eviscerate?
Why?
Trade?
What, over just walk the plank in?
To just well, because the rest of the turn's weak if he walks the plank.
You can
should
double
he
Goblin Lackey, right?
Yeah, I guess.
You could then buff the attack on one of the minions and then Lackey the other Lackey
Trade
to
push.
take off the...
Yeah, you know what? Okay. I was trying to work out that does walk the plank get better if you save it? As in, if you can kill a giant this turn without it, does just holding walk the plank and keeping the pressure on Alutimuu ever work out better?
Yes.
And I'm not saying it does, I was just asking the question.
Right. I think like the only time it becomes better is if you're hit with exactly giant plus freeze, because then it's like pretty much your only option. But even then, Surrender has a second walk the plank and a second sap. Like, he has every base covered here in terms of giant plays, well, specifically Mountain Giant or Sea Giant from Alutimuu, not just large plays overall.
Yeah, I thought it was just like really good plays.
Yeah. I do need to sort out my vocabulary on that because I do often actually just mix the two up completely. But now for Alutimuu, he has seen the walk the plank. It was a fairly considered walk the plank, so I wonder if he's making the read that Surrender was hesitant to use it and will therefore go Giant Freeze is definitely what I'm looking at most of all. Mountain Giant Freeze, not a Giant Freeze, which is kind of what Frostnova is as well. Because he can make the read, I think, the majority of the time, second walk the plank is not there.
Alutimuu probably a little bit upset seeing Sea Giant, because this is one of the turns that he could have gone pretty beefy with Luna if his draw was not a 6 cost, because he has Luna, Apprentice, Coin, Apprentice, and then the Magic Trick's there, the Frostnova's there that he could maybe get away with, and so on, so on. Maybe not exactly those lines of play, but...
I mean, he could still have considered a Luna's turn on this turn, because he could have gone Magic Trick to shuffle a card over to the right-hand side. Right. But I agree, that's probably
it's much more reliant off the top of your deck, right?
Yes.
Whereas next turn, it's looking a little bit better, if he needs it, of course. Because now I think Alutimuu just needs to fish for that Conjurer's Calling, and I think Luna's the way to do it.
I agree. He also needs to pray that Surrender does not have a second walk the plank.
And right now, this is the moment where decisions are made, because if, again, I am way too much of an aggressive player, but all I see now is like Leroy Waggle Pick. You know, not this turn, of course, but like it's so much damage.
You set up for it 100%.
And Surrender, like, sorry, Alutimuu, would he have just already played? If he had Conjurer's Calling,
that's the
he
point.
played like a super cheap giant and didn't Conjurer's it.
Right, because if he had Conjurer's Calling, given that we've seen... Okay, so Surrender now knows that on turn 4, Alutimuu had Giant Giant and Elemental Evocation, which would have allowed for Conjurer's Calling to come down.
Oh, I love it.
So I guess there is actually just a pretty strong read that there's no Conjurer's Calling.
Such a good play. Like, now, what is the answer that ticks all boxes for Alutimuu here? There isn't really one, right? If he Novas and stops the damage, fine. But he cannot normally Nova play a threat that's reasonable, that Surrender can't deal with.
I like this a lot.
Even if it's the sickest turn from Alutimuu, Surrender just walks the plank.
Yeah.
It's just, okay, do it again and again, and he just can't. And it's why Waggle Pick's one of the best cards in the deck and one of the nuttiest cards in Rogue. Not only is it just a solid mana-costed weapon that hits for 8, it's the fear of when your opponent swings it once, you're like, oh no, like how much damage can they put out this next turn because of currently the Rogue deck running Leroy, Life Drinkers, SI7 agents, lackeys that can do extra damage too.
Yeah.
There's so much damage available when you can Shadow Step. It makes this Waggle Pick just horrible to play against in this situation. And I just don't really know what Alutimuu does. I don't know what's the correct way to deal with this board. The board isn't even impressive, but it is.
Yeah,
it's a bad board that's good enough. It's weird.
This is what I was looking at, is just get the Ziliax ping down. Like, I don't know, he could have considered trying to play Banana Buffoon to set up for better Stargazer Luna, but I guess he draws an extra card anyway. So it's more likely, I think, that we're setting up for a powerhouse turn with Luna next turn. Or top deck Conjurer's Calling and go with the Mountain Giant is the, I guess, the dream.
What about Eviscerate? The 3-2.
I'm actually wondering if you ever walk the plank just to save all the damage possible. Like, can you go... you can't play Leroy on the same turn, right? So I guess that's the downside. Because if you go walk the plank Leroy and then step the Leroy after attacking, I think that would be pretty nuts.
You can Eviscerate Leroy,
Yes.
step the Leroy.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
what I was getting at.
I guess you could
Because
go,
then you have walk the plank Leroy next turn if he gets a taunt.
Yeah, you could go... no, yeah. So I guess you go Eviscerate Leroy, swing everything face,
I think
and
you
then
go...
swing with the Waggle Pick, and then Shadow Step if it misses.
Wait. Yes, Shadow Step last was
Yeah.
exactly what I was about to get to before you got me beat me into it.
Huh.
Oh,
Okay.
you can still Leroy. This gives him a less chance of guaranteeing Leroy, of course, from the swing. but-
Yeah, and you know, with the way it
Okay,
works,
okay.
the way that Surrender's losing at the moment is that's pretty good.
nice.
Is the way he's losing? Sorry, is Mountain Giant into Conjurer's Calling, and so by going for Leroy and removing power from the board, that does not play around that very effectively. Whereas this puts a much higher amount of stats on board, and therefore does play around Giant Conjurer's Calling, I would argue, very effectively.
Yep, and hold on to your seats right now because Alutimu can kind of get some work done, depending on how that Discover went.
That was a tough choice.
He's going to draw with Luna's got the Ice Barrier to help out. But again, this is just the big question for me. Can he defend and at any real point put on a threat himself? Because if he never threatens Surrender with anything,
Yeah.
then he still loses no matter the defense. Ray of Frost is a huge pickup there, though.
That's massive.
Oh,
That
it
is-
saved so much damage.
Yeah, that is light and day. Night and day. Light
It's
and dark.
light and day.
Wow, yeah, I'm just making up nonsense, it would appear.
Or maybe it's just too deep. I don't get it. That's the way you talk yourself out of those, Derek. You're like, you just don't understand the
Yeah, we say that all the
complexity.
time.
Even the Arcane Explosion just isn't too shabby. Maybe not right now.
There has to be something
but-
better, though. It has to be the Coin Ice Barrier or a
Yeah,
Coin
yeah,
Giant,
yeah.
right?
Like I said, maybe not right now, but I think in general it's pretty good. Pretty good job.
Wow, this
Oh,
is just maximum damage control for Alutimu here.
So now there's 2, there's 6 damage, there's a Leroy, and maybe,
There is lethal,
yeah.
with air quotation marks here represented.
yeah, Surrender went Leroy. Wait a minute, what are the numbers?
Is it ever good? No. Yeah, I was wondering if it was ever good to like give your opponent more whelps with Shark, but no, that doesn't have any benefit.
The trade makes the
Still
Leroy more
lethal.
likely.
Yeah.
1 in 3. Oh! And that's green to me. Surrender gives a nod, and that means Leroy got bounced by the Waggle Pick, and that is going to be lethal. Alutimu obviously and visually disappointed there with the ending of that game. 1 in 3 chance, but Surrender went for it, and he now takes the lead in the series. 2-1 in the finals of the Asia Pacific playoffs. We've still got more games though, because it is a best of 5, but again, just another tense game. I feel like that one though, less back and forth and more Surrender just putting his foot down and not really letting Alutimu wiggle out of it.
Yeah, that was kind of the situation you don't want to be in as the mage, where you fall behind early on, both giants are dealt with very easily,
Right.
and then you're just playing catch up from there on in. To be fair, it would have been a very different game if we'd seen a Conjurer's Calling from Alutimu, but what more do you want, man? Like, he had such a good starting hand with AI, Giant, Evocation, just all the makings of a fantastic hand.
Yeah, and the thing is with the deck as well is, yes, the Conjurer's Calling turns are often the most generally impactful turns in any game playing this deck. You cannot play a deck that needs to draw 1 card to make it be good, right?
Right.
So, like, there are games you don't draw it, and those are the games you also really have to win, which is just like any deck. Sometimes you don't draw your key cards. You have to put together a win somehow. Alutimu did okay, but I think Surrender's just constant pressure. Surrender just didn't let up. There wasn't a turn to give Alutimu any wiggle room. It's like I was saying throughout the game. Alutimu couldn't defend and present some kind of threat at the same time. Surrender never gave him the option, and it just really was enough as he just kept it up long enough.
It was, and I wonder if therefore we will see a slight change in game plan for Alutimu, because remember, his starting hand was a Giant pre-mulligan. He kept it, I believe, in his starting hand. which is understandable given he had the Evocation and the Arcane Intellect. It was a hand that pointed very clearly towards Giant Conjurer's Calling. But given that this is Surrender's secondary deck, he has to consider much more carefully the anti-mage options, the walk the planks that we saw, the betrayal that we saw, which means if he had the choice between having the starting hand of Giant AI, Evocation, and Conjurer's Calling, or Sorcerer's Apprentice, Mana Cyclone, Elemental Evocation, Magic Trick, or Banana Buffoon, whatever, he'd probably pick the latter, just because it gives him more ability to not play into the powerhouse turns from Surrender.
It's also one of the weird mulligan intricacies of the deck and why practicing for GM is hard, because not only do you need to work out the matchup at a base, if you queued this on ladder, what does it look like level, which is, you could say, primary deck, you have to work out the matchup of your secondary or tertiary, whatever, versus theirs, and how that works out. Because, as an example, should Alutimu mulligan away cards like Giant for Conjurer's Calling to just have more flexibility in general, and also the fact that Alutimu does not run a Sandbinder, which means...
True.
But yeah, that's one of the negatives. Alutimu doesn't run Sandbinder, which means it's one minion that does not draw him a Giant easily, but he has put 2 half-time Scavengers in, so even if he throws Giant, it's not like that's his only early play, right? He has all the spells combinations that you mentioned. There's half-time Scavengers and also a higher likelihood that he can get Conjurer's Calling, which opens up more options. And now, let's go into game number 4. Surrender is on match point, 1 game win, and he is in.
Oh man, these opening hands.
To the global Finn. Is as good as I could make that rhyme, I'm sorry. But yes, carry on, Derek, because you make much better points than I make jokes.
I shall do. My points are sharper than a pin.
Maybe not.
Definitely not. Blunter than a brick, I think is a bit more appropriate. But for Alutimu, this starting hand, such an interesting little one, because, I think something that I often suffer from as a Cyclone Mage player is tunnel visioning much too hard on the idea that the benefit of casting a bunch of spells with Sorcerer's Apprentice in a turn is Cyclone. Like, that's why it's good, is because you refill your hand. The benefit of casting all these spells with Sorcerer's Apprentice is that you cheat out like 5, 6, 7 mana on turn 4 or turn 3. It's just not so powerful on its own. That's not so, not so
Yeah, I was just
powerful.
about to make that
Incredibly powerful, yeah, on its own. And so from Alutimu here, this keep of it in this starting hand, it speaks to exactly what I was talking about, which is playing for a more proactive style rather than relying on Giant.
Look at this opening hand from Surrender, though.
Pretty nuts.
Sign me up to that. I'll take a Leroy Chilling in my hand for the rest of this one. Oh,
I'll have what he's having.
Yes, Fairy Dragon on 2. Perfect for the rogue player in Surrender here, but then backstab into Evil Miscreant, because although...
Oh my god.
Although you never want your opponent to do strong things.
Yeah.
You do when you have the perfect answer and enables your strong thing. And this might be the start of the end. Alutimu gives a nod, just saying, I went for it. This would have been great if I got it, because he gets to cheat out, what, 5 mana at least next turn with the Buffoon into Bananas.
Yeah.
But now Alutimu needs to quickly get a plan together, because this game could end quite dramatically.
And he has one. To be fair, the mirror images, despite this was pretty much the worst case scenario, outside of a huge Edwin, I suppose, in the worst case scenario, he has a very strong backup plan. The mirror images buy him some time to go for Coin, Pocket Galaxy, into Arcane Intellect, and then whatever he gets, plus Conjurer's Calling. His hand tells a story, and he's just going to have to play it out.
He can do it. It's not over yet. It's just going to be hard.
It ain't going to be easy.
Academic Espionage, Cannon Barrage, and Stolen Steel.
These suck.
They do suck. I guess Stolen Steel, because it's just the cheapest card that might...
It's just the one that does something.
Well, also as well, I think your average weapon just pushes a solid amount of damage.
I agree.
And with Surrender's opening, you want to push damage right now. This is insane.
Faux show.
Okay.
Oof. That's interesting. If his game plan was Coin Galaxy into AI cheap minions, that's been shaken up quite drastically now, because the plan now, I guess, is AI this turn, Giant Coin Conjurer's Calling next turn. But is that better? Is that good enough to win? Is that basically conceding versus betrayal? or walk
Does
the
he
plank.
just giant now? It's bad if there's walk the plank,
You
but
never giant now. That's like the worst play by Miles.
I
That's-
think,
that's
I think
just- that's-
banana in your opponent's minions is the worst play by Miles.
Okay.
I'll take my out there, but I'll escape that one.
I think with
technically.
this hand, you have to set up for a better giant
Okay.
than just play giant.
Sometimes you have to live in a world where perfection happens. Alutimu's got a very... This is probably the game-deciding choice.
100%.
From
These are
Alutimu?
two incredibly distinct options that he has. Which path does he go down? He chooses to go for the immediately more reliable payout option of Mountain Giant Conjurer's Calling, instead of the riskier play that had the potential higher upside of the Luna's Pocket Galaxy. And I think it's correct, because
Derek.
he can't pass for 2 turns.
Do you think Surrender watched Orange play?
Oh.
There's Leroy Shadow Step available, and not much else. He doesn't have to do it, but he
That's-
could, and it's not terrible.
That's so bad in the case of double Grave Horror coming down next turn, though, right? So, well, actually, what's the discrete breakpoints? He goes down to 15 health, double Life Drinker, or Life Drinker Step Life Drinker is like an extra 6, which only gets him down to 9. Like, so for Surrender, I think the situation is no matter what he does here, if it's double Mountain Giant off of this play for Alutemu, good. Double Grave Horror, bad.
Right.
And
Which,
obviously,
yeah,
one Grave Horror is fine. You
Which
can
is
keep
just the
playing.
case.
Yes, that's
Like,
pretty much
regardless,
always
right?
the case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the problem here that Surrender's got is Life Drinker feels a little bit lackluster. Stolen Steel could whiff, so I think he's gone with the most stable option. I wonder whether he uses Shadow Step though.
Okay, so what was a consideration there was stepping a Lackey to go for Heist Baron Togwaggle next turn. I would have very much not liked that, because I think it's so unlikely that Alutemu clears off both of these minions, and like if he does that, that's just a game-losing play anyway.
Would you have liked
Step on
in the
drink.
Miscreant?
Oh.
Because you could have replayed it this turn, get 2 more lackeys to mess around with.
That's true. I think as it currently stands, though, Surrender's probably a little bit more all-in, on stepping the damage cards rather than the value cards. Because with Heist Baron Togwaggle next turn, there's very, very limited scenarios where he runs out of stuff to do. So I think closing the game out as soon as possible is Surrender's best chance here.
Well, here we go. This could be game life and tournament life on the line. Surrenders after no taunts, and he gets no taunts. Derek, add up some damage.
What is that? He can step the Drinker, but he can't... Oh, he can step the
game.
1 damage. That's just game. That's it!
Game.
Surrender's our champion!
Surrender in Grandmasters Season 1 Finals is going to take it 3-1 over Alutimu with the Rogue versus the Mage. Surrender, one of the most storied players in the Asia-Pacific region, and he is going to the Global Finals. Goodbye, Alutimu. It was fantastic watching you. I look forward to seeing you work in Season 2, but for now, Surrender is your Season 1 Asia-Pacific champion. Wow.
What a road it's been for him. Just unbelievable rogue play consistently along the way. And I think he's been the perfect example of mastering the specialist format, where he has shown degrees of flexibility along the weeks. He hasn't been playing purely rogue. He's been switching it up. But when it came down to it, he goes with his gut, picks the rogue, and is just an absolute powerhouse on this deck, a specialist of the rogue class.
It is, and I think, you know, there was weeks when he played Warrior for a couple of weeks. I think he went Bomb Warrior, and I think I really enjoy just the sprinkling of different classes in.
Yes.
Not going completely like different class every week, or you know, just being a little bit consistent with what you're good at, but then a sprinkling of a different class. I really like it. Some other players have done that as well. Staz kind of did that, but then found his comfort zone in a Hunter. But overall, I think, one, that series was just fantastic, even though it went 3-1, which might sound a little bit more lopsided than it actually was, in my opinion. I think it was very close.
Yeah.
But just Alutimu on Mage, Surrender on Rogue, fantastic ending to Season 1 of Grandmasters.
I would agree, but for Alutimu on the other side, taking a second place, he unfortunately does not get a spot, at least in Season 1 of qualifying through to the Global Finals at BlizzCon. But it has just been an absolute delight watching him play. I think that Mage is pretty undeniably, if not the most difficult deck, right up there in Hearthstone at the moment. And I think given the current theory on how the deck should be played, Alutimu has got that down to a science. Like, it is incredible watching him play this deck.
Yeah, he doesn't get a spot at the Global Finals this time, but he is playing in Season 2. And if I was anyone else in this tournament, I would be terrified of Alutimu, seeing what he's done this season. He's just dominating fashion with, as you said, one of the strongest decks, but also one of the most difficult to play across a long period of games. I think he's done very, very well. And also, of course, a shout out to Shaxi and Staz, who made up the top 4 from the 16 players from the Asia Pacific region. We are just getting hold of Surrender, getting ready for an interview, I believe, and hopefully we can get that. But I'm just, I'm happy. It's the end of Season 1, but it's, I'm happy that we've got a great winner. We're going to be moving on to Season 2 shortly, but that's going to be it for us for a while.
It is a bit of a break in Hearthstone. It's been a pretty crazy 9 weeks we've had of just so much Hearthstone every single weekend. Traveling all over the world to get to be a part of it has just been a delight. I feel honoured.
Yeah, well, let's talk to the man of the hour, as we've got Surrender here. Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Fantastic. So first off, huge congratulations. Yeah, great job. You've got your spot at the Global Finals. I just want to ask you just how you felt throughout that series, because for us casting, it was intense and it was crazy. But how did you find it on your end?
Actually, I don't think I have played my games perfect. I think I have made a lot of mistakes, but I tried my best, though.
Okay, well, you got there anyway. And what does it mean to you to just already have that spot in the Global Finals? You're going to be going to BlizzCon and being able to compete to potentially become the world champion.
Yeah, going to global final is, I couldn't be happier than going to BlizzCon. Yeah, I'm really happy, and it feels really good to compete in World Championship again. Because last time when I was playing World Championship, I only got top 4. But maybe this time I can win it.
That's the plan.
Only top 4.
Yeah, only got top 4 in Worlds.
Yeah, that's pretty unbelievable. But I guess here I just want to ask you about your thoughts of how that series went, because I think we agree there were a couple of things that you could have maybe done better to set up for lethals. But overall, it feels like you're getting Rogue down to. I mean, you're playing Rogue super well. It feels like you've got the class pretty much figured out.
Yeah, my friends, especially Sixo, he always forced me to play aggressive, but I just can't. It's too hard.
Just more of a safe player. And I guess while we've got you now, and while we are ending Season 1 for Asia Pacific right now, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to and to thank that helped you with preparation to become the winner of Season 1?
I would like to shout out to all of my practice partners, especially Korean friends. They were so supportive, and they were so willing to help me. Once they even did practice with me for 10 hours straight. They are so supportive.
Yeah,
thank you to all my Korean friends.
Yeah, those are some good friends if they're going to practice for that many hours with you, but it seemed to have worked, so, a great shout out for them. And we are done, so thanks a lot, Surrender, and congratulations once more. And we'll see you not only next season, but we'll see you at the Global Finals as well.
Yeah, see you.
Okay, well, I don't know about you, Darek. I've had a great day of Hearthstone, a great weekend of Hearthstone, and a great note to finish on, I think. I don't know, Rogue versus Mage, it feels like such a great matchup to cast as well, just being selfish here, but I just like casting that matchup.
Yeah, it was always just going to end that way. I'm really glad that it did with the Mage and the Rogue. As we can see here, the bracket coming down there right at the end to Surrender being our champion for Asia Pacific Season 1. We will see him again. We'll see him at the Global Finals at BlizzCon. We'll also see him next season in Grandmasters. He's not going anywhere. He will still be competing, to get a good run. Weirdly enough, he'll be competing to not get relegated as well in Season 2 of Grandmasters. It's still possible that he could be relegated and also go on to the Global Finals at the end. But I think, given the way he's been playing so far, it seems pretty unlikely.
Yeah, I think Surrender is just one of those players that I will never count out, no matter what is happening. It's like, nope, he can still do it because he's just that good. But we are done for Season 1, as we've been saying. So Thanks a lot for watching. Season 1 is not over yet because we do have Europe and Americas to finish off and find out who their entries into the global finals are going to be. But from Derek and myself, thanks a lot for watching. We hope you enjoyed Season 1. We'll be back for Season 2. We'll see you then.